Criminal, criminal, criminal. That's what my neighbor yelled at me every single morning, loud enough for the whole block to hear, as if I was some lowlife breaking into a stranger's house instead of just heading in after work. Funny thing is, she was right. I had no clue, but for 3 solid weeks, I'd been living in the wrong damn house. Yeah, that happened. My name's Kevin Parker. And let me tell you, nothing will humble you faster than getting accused of being a criminal on your own front lawn by a woman in a power suit. I'm 45, a software architect who thought moving into a neighborhood without an HOA would finally mean peace and quiet. My wife, Julie, is a nurse working night shifts, so evenings were usually just me, a cold beer, and the so-called sanctuary on Maple Street. Except apparently, it wasn't my sanctuary at all. We chose that house because it didn't have a board or some clipboard-waving Karen barking at us about mailbox colors. Turns out, fate has a wicked sense of humor. It started on a boring Monday. I checked the mailbox and found this antique brass key. Heavy, fancy, looked like it belonged in some old bank vault. Wrapped in tissue paper like a twisted little present. It wasn't mine, but honestly, it just felt right in my hand. I figured maybe it was a spare left by the last owner. So, being me, I slid it into the front door, clicked smooth, like it was made for that lock. Before I could breathe, this woman came tearing across the yard, platinum blonde, mid-50s, sharp as a tack, with a damn HOA badge glinting on her lapel. Criminal. Drop the key, she hollered. I stood there like a deer in headlights, hands still on the doorknob. Ma'am, this is my house. She shut that down real quick. You don't belong here. Then she caught sight of the brass key, and in that split second, all the anger drained out of her face, replaced by a look I'll never forget. Pure, bone-deep fear. She started shaking. It's back, she whispered, like she'd seen a ghost. Oh God. It found me again. Right then, her teenage son, Tyler, 17, sharp-eyed and eerily calm, stepped out. Mom, it's okay, he said, voice smooth, like he'd rehearsed this. Probably just a misunderstanding. He shot me an apologetic look. Sorry, Mr. Parker. That key sets Mom off. Long story. He sounded so grown up, so reasonable. I actually felt bad for both of them. If only I'd known that was step 1 in the setup. Next morning, the circus showed up. 3 trucks. Men with clipboards measuring my grass, poking at my mailbox, and Victoria. Yeah, that's her name. Marching up and down in that suit, barking orders like a 4-star general. Mr. Parker, you are subject to a mandatory compliance review, she announced. What compliance? I said, I'm not even in your HOA. She didn't blink. Suspicious activity supersedes consent. Can you believe that? Neighbors gathered around, some live streaming me as local rule breaker, and before I could say a word, I was slapped with $900 in bogus violations. Grass too long, mailbox wrong. Not displaying some imaginary HOA placard, and my personal favorite, unauthorized door access pattern. Basically, unlocking my own front door was now a crime. Through all this, Tyler was filming, acting like the concerned kid. That evening, he stopped by with his backpack slung over one shoulder. Mr. Parker, can we talk? Mom's escalating. She's planning legal action. He told me about his family, his dad, Robert, a powerful attorney who tried to have Victoria declared unfit, then left. Victoria fought back, but never fully recovered. Tyler explained it all so calmly, how she saw threats everywhere, how he just wanted peace. The kid was so convincing, I actually started to believe maybe Victoria was just broken, not bad. Then Tyler suggested I meet his dad, Robert, to help resolve things. Robert, when I met him, was straight out of a lawyer commercial. Perfect hair, perfect handshake, framed photos with city officials. Mr. Parker, I'm concerned about Victoria's behavior, he said, showing me therapy records, legal papers, psychiatric evaluations, all looking legit. By the end of our meeting, I was convinced Victoria was the victim here, and I, being the helpful neighbor, thought maybe I could fix things. That was my mistake. I was just another pawn on their board. Over the next few days, Tyler practically moved in, helping me pull documents, prepping evidence for the HOA, making me feel like we were on some noble quest. Julie didn't buy it for a second. Kevin, you ever wonder why that kid talks like a 40-year-old lawyer? I shrugged it off. He's just mature. She wasn't convinced. Friday morning, I get a weird text from an unknown number. Check your property deed before it's too late. Gone as soon as I read it. Julie insisted we dig up the house papers, and that's when my stomach hit the floor. The deed said 1248 Maple Street. The house I'd been living in, mailbox and all, was 247. One digit off. I'd been sleeping, eating, living in Victoria's house for 3 weeks while she screamed criminal at the actual criminal, me. I stumbled outside and stared across the street at my real house. Same layout, same color, just flipped numbers. And the key? It belonged to Victoria all along. Tyler was waiting, no more polite smiles, just cold satisfaction. Congratulations, Mr. Parker. You finally figured it out. He opened his laptop, showing weeks of footage, me unlocking her door, timestamps, everything. I documented it all, he said. Every break-in. Every time Mom tried to stop you. You called her crazy, but she was right. Neighbors crowded in, gasping, some angry, some horrified. Tyler looked at me like he was conducting a science experiment, and I'd just passed the test. You were the perfect weapon, the proof Mom needed to fall apart. It finally hit me. Tyler wasn't some sweet, mature kid. He was a stone-cold manipulator. That night, he showed up in my real house, completely uninvited, cool as ever. Dad's been training me, psychology, documentation, manipulation. Family unity requires eliminating resistance, he said, voice flat like he was quoting a textbook. Mom chose defiance over loyalty. Dad taught me that love means control. I just stared, barely holding it together. You're talking about your own mother, I said. He shrugged. She stopped being my mother when she betrayed the family. He pulled out a small wooden box. Inside were letters, trinkets, photos, all personal things. Mom's memory box, he said, almost smiling. Whenever she felt stable, I'd leave out one of Grandma's letters. Remind her what she lost. Worked every time. I felt sick. He'd been weaponizing her grief, turning her trauma into evidence for his father's custody battles. Dad calls it perfect victim conditioning, Tyler explained. Break them with their own memories. That way, when they collapse, nobody questions it. That was the moment. I realized this wasn't just a family feud, it was psychological warfare. Robert had raised his son to destroy Victoria from the inside out. Tyler looked at me, dead calm. Phase 1 was Mom. Phase 2 is your wife, Julie. Something in me snapped. I'd been duped, humiliated, but there was no way I was letting them near Julie. We spent the next day gathering every scrap of evidence, texts, videos, Tyler's own admissions. Julie's hands shook, but she stayed focused, helping me organize it all. Then we went to Victoria, the real victim. She opened the door, cautious and exhausted. I handed her the brass key. You were right, I said. Let me show you. Together, we watched the footage, the confessions, the manipulation, the therapy records, all of it. Victoria nearly collapsed when she saw how they'd used her own pain against her. That night, we called the police. At the emergency HOA meeting, I stood in front of the same neighbors who'd once filmed my walk of shame. You all saw a crazy woman, I said. She wasn't crazy. She was fighting for her life against her own family. Tyler tried to interrupt, but I played the recordings, his voice, his plans, his confession that love means control. The room went silent. Then chaos. Robert was arrested for conspiracy, child abuse, psychological manipulation. Tyler was taken away to juvenile rehab. The boy never flinched. He just smirked at me as they cuffed him. Thanks for being the perfect weapon, he said. But the fun's not over. 6 months later, life is quieter. Victoria's garden is growing again. Julie and I live across the street in the right house this time, but I still check the locks every night. Because last week, Julie found something on our porch, wrapped in tissue paper. A brass key and a note. Some lessons, I guess, never end. A friend. You know what I mean? Never underestimate the damage a manipulator can do when they're hiding behind a smile. So, tell me, was I the villain, the victim, or just the guy who finally saw the game for what it was? Drop a comment below. Let me know where you stand.